It's Ken Bagley, and I'm here right now to give you some updates and to motivate you to get involved. To get involved. I want to share something that I learned with you. I learned from a late senator. He said that if you have a problem with government, if you have a problem how they're operating, the policies, don't complain. Get involved. Again, he said, don't complain, get involved. Now, I'm a reentrant. I remember something like in the 1980s, it was called something like a war on drugs. And the result of that, many of my contemporaries and myself, we were taken away out of society and taken to these rural areas. Fortunately, I'm now a reentrant. And those words that he said, they resonated in my mind. Actually, they galvanized me. Those words galvanized me. Get involved. So as a reentrant, I want to get involved. When I came back into society, I wanted to get involved, but I didn't know how. I was introduced to something called Reclaim Philadelphia. Reclaim Philadelphia has empowered me to get involved. Now, fortunately for me, I was able to get involved with something called mass liberation. Mass liberation. As being a part of Reclaim Philadelphia, I also learned some different projects and things that were going on. One of the things in view of mass liberation that I learned, now I have to say this, that what I'm about to speak about is not Reclaim. Reclaim is not the proprietor of this organization, right? We learned about something that belongs to or is being ran by the Defenders Association. And what it's called is called participatory defense. And that participatory defense, what it does is it helps people to navigate through the court system, which can be so intimidating. It can be so intimidating that a person will sign up as a plea bargain when they could have went home. But the Participatory Defense Hub is educating people on how to bring about mass liberation. I just finished talking to one of my fellow Reclaim members, and they were talking about something called transformative justice, an alternative to prisons. And I look forward to working in that regard. Also, recently, I have organized a community chat in South Philadelphia. I organized a community chat, and what we're endeavoring to do is to show the young people that they have some alternatives versus picking up a gun. What we're at, like 20-something murders in Philadelphia, and we only on the 18th day? Come on. Get involved. We have to get involved. We have our second community chat in South Philadelphia on the 31st, January 31st, and we're trying to motivate these young people to know that they have some alternatives, that they don't have to perpetuate some violence that they don't even know anything about. There's just peer pressure, environmental, especially where I'm from in South Philadelphia. Reclaim goals is to develop community initiatives to prevent and respond to violence that doesn't involve militarized police and give out harsher sentences to offenders. But instead, we want to invest in healthcare, housing, and jobs. I'm a firm believer. If you're telling a young person, don't do something negative, you got to give them something to replace it with. In South Philadelphia, one of the things that we're doing, right? We have a beautification committee that I'm a part of. And what we're doing is we're having the young people paint the trash cans. And again, my thing about it is pick up a paintbrush instead of a gun. And we're looking for sponsors and things like that, but I'm not going to give a shameless plug right now. I'm not going to give a shameless plug. Reclaim Philadelphia works in alliance with other organizations that have the same goals. For example, the Amistad Law Project is organizing a rally at Shapiro's office to protest his bad stamp on pardons. He's running for governor in 2 years, and we want to stop his bad practices now. One thing I'm so happy and energized about Reclaim Philadelphia is that it's a power organization. You feel that? It's a power organization. It's the type of organization that's going to watch you, and they will step to you. We will step to you if you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Right? Reclaim Philadelphia has different task forces. Reclaim Philadelphia has a housing task force. Right? That was a good sign. I'm doing good then. Reclaim Philadelphia has a housing task force, right? And they're doing some big things. The right to counsel. We're trying to get the right to counsel funded, and the renters' rights campaign move forward in both city and the state level. So what I mean by saying that is that Reclaim Philadelphia is fighting to ensure that if a person is evicted from their home, he or she will have the right to legal representation in court. You will not be alone. I love Reclaim about that. You will not be alone. We have an educational task force. In the past 20 years, Philadelphia has seen the state takeover of schools. $1 million was cut from the state educational funding in 2011, and a ballooning of charter schools is developed. Thousands of teachers, support staffs were laid off. Art, music, counselors, nurses, all of them became scarce, and community schools were closed. That's not acceptable. Now, I want some more energy in this room. I want to say this again. I want some more energy in this room. Reclaim Philadelphia is a power organization. Again, Reclaim Philadelphia is a power organization. And say it with me this time. Reclaim Philadelphia is a what? Yeah, that's what we do, right? I'm going to give you some examples of that, right? Recently, we see the results of strong coalitions and organizing. Our educational task force has been part of some amazing victories in the past few years. We have pushed to end the School Reform Commission, moved legislation on a 10-year tax abatement, and have seen a hard-working, resilient, non-stop, you can't stop her, win an city at-large seat, right? Can somebody say Kendra Brooks? Yeah. And guess what? Reclaim Philadelphia was behind helping her in that victory. Right? Our next educational task force meeting will be held Sunday, February 9th at 4 o'clock to 5:30 p.m. at the People's Headquarters, and that's 924 Cherry Street. We will be talking about ways to plug in to our existing work and envisioning our future work. At Reclaim, we love visionaries. We love idealists and things like that. So, wait a minute. Maybe you're not ready for a task force right now. You might not be ready for a task force, right? But we have some caucuses that you can be involved in, right? Let us start off with the Jewish caucus. In the last few years, we have seen a dramatic rise in anti-Semitic attacks across the United States, including the worst attack in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 2018. In Reclaim Philadelphia, we see that we need to create a space for people of Jewish culture. Jewish Culture Caucus is open to anyone that identifies as being Jewish. Reclaim has a queer caucus, There will be strategizing meetings on January 25th. And also, we have a POC caucus, People of Color caucus. Our goal is to create a space for black and brown folks within Reclaim to come together. In November, we hosted a potluck in West Philadelphia, and we look forward to future events for POC members to feel safe, be seen, and heard. We have a Gender Justice Caucus. There's no updates at this time on that caucus, but if you are interested in joining our group, please let it be known. Reclaim has a political education committee. That committee is working on its second season of a podcast and has recently created a candidate scorecard for the presidential election. Now, you all have been given some commitment cards, right? Just please check out what you want to get involved in, not complain, as we talked about in the beginning. Check what you want to get involved in. A task force, a caucus, just get involved. This don't happen by the magic wand. This happens because of work. All right? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. All right, our energy is up. We're almost done, but this is a perfect time to